usually wants us to shake hands at the beginning, so gotcha, Josh. I'm thinking. Didn't have to remind me this time. We're back around town, episode 29. Graeme Buchanan. I'm Josh Hodges. I think they know, hopefully by now. I'm from Hamilton, Ohio. You're from Quebec, but we're not in either of those places. We're in Xenia, Ohio.
That's right.
In a really old, really big building. I own a couple big old buildings, but not as big as this one. How'd you end up here in Xenia, and why are we sitting in this building together? Like life, I know you weren't thinking about this a year ago, so how'd you get here?
Yeah, well, I mean, even purchasing this building was kind of a fluke in that my brother and my friend Jeremy, my brother Nelson, and I were looking at starting a space where community could come together, and we did that by starting Common Thread, which is a fiber art studio just across the street. But we were looking originally in the Allen building, which is right on the main crossroads of downtown Xenia, Ohio. And honestly, the first thought was like, I joked with my brother. I was like, "Do you want to buy a 36,000 square foot building?" And he loves real estate, so I instantly piqued his interest, and then kind of like started the ball rolling there, and and eventually we purchased that building or this building that we're in, and we got tons of ideas, tons of plans to do with it, but that's how we came to buy this building. But how I came to Xenia, Ohio was, how much time do you got?
I mean, start when you were in a cabin in the woods, because I know that much of the story.
Okay,
or further back if you want.
Well, I mean, I was living in Washington State back in 2021, and then I went through a divorce. Life changed dramatically, and my dad had asked if I would come and help him renovate our family cottage that's up in the woods in Canada, in Ontario, right on Lake Huron. And so I moved up there for a couple years, and so he would come up from our house, my family home in Quebec, which is like 10 hours away. So I was essentially just living in the cabin, renovating, doing some odd construction stuff, thinking about like, all right, what does life look like for me? And then my brother, after that whole stint, was quite clear that that's not the direction my dad wanted to head, that I was just like a hermit at the cottage, and he was like, I have other plans for it. And so my plans fell through, and I was again like a free agent. My brother said, come on down, let's do business together, let's figure something out. And I'm a big believer in community, and so every time I move, it's always like a little bit of a loss, because I've been building community. And so I'm just kind of trying to find that piece. So I came to Xenia instantly on the hunt, on the lookout for how do we build community, how do we invest in people. So that's one of the main reasons I came down here was just working with my brother, but also like, how do I do life with other people?
Okay. Yeah, and as someone, I haven't moved. I've lived in Hamilton, Ohio my whole life, other than maybe a year just outside of it. I mean, basically always in Hamilton, so I haven't moved around. So you said you feel like you lose a little bit when you move, but do you feel like you gain something when you come to a new area and you got a new start maybe too? I've never really experienced it.
Yeah, it's a good question. You gain a lot. I think there's a lot you gain. You gain new perspective. You gain like whenever you travel. You go to a new country, and I've been to my fair share of like international overseas countries. You always leave there changed. And so I think there's a new quality that comes with going to a new place and meeting new people. I think there's so much value that people bring. And so, there's newness. And I think the struggle though, like I think the hard part is getting into close enough relationships with people where you can actually glean that, because you don't get all of that value and that benefit just from a one-time surface level conversation or interaction. You have to actually invest. You have to get close enough that you get hurt by people, that you build that kind of relationship, and then you forgive them and you move forward and you build relationships from that perspective. And so I think there's a huge aspect of interpersonal relationships that come from living life with people that I think there's no end to the depth you can go. And I'm a firm believer that like, yeah, there's never all right, this is as far as we can go. I think there's always more that we can go into. And I feel, just to go on a side, I feel almost like we're in a time in history where the cards are stacked against us, in that we have so much distraction, there's so much things vying for our time, that it's harder for us to take the time required for me to get to know you well enough in order for you to hurt me and not just write you off and go do something else. Yeah. Right? We're not spending the time that's going to be required to reconcile, to go through those hard conversations. There's so many distractions that we can kind of self-soothe or fix the uncomfortableness with, that there's a real effect that's happening on our mental health, our social well-being, how strong our relationships are getting. I was in the mental health field 5 years ago. I built a business for about 7 years, a mental health practice, and I was doing a lot of like market research and stats and looking at the rise. One of the things I looked at was the rise of cell phone usage and the rise of suicide rate, and how correlated those two are. And it kind of opened this line of thinking for me about the impact that, not only phones, I'm not vilifying phones, I have one, I love it, that's not going back in the box, but just how big of an impact that's actually having on us, and really focusing on the interpersonal impact that's having. And so what am I doing? I think that's a long story of why I'm committed to community and why I'm committed to spaces where people can get together in person, because I think it's the answer, the antidote to hyper individualism, hyper isolation that is there. And it's not the only thing. Yeah. I'm not thinking I'm saving the world by making fun spaces for people to hang out with, but I think it's a big factor. And yeah.
Yeah, I think, there's definitely more distractions, and I think having a place to go hang out is maybe even more important today than it was in the past, where that's 100 years ago, that's all anyone always did. Right. There was nothing else to do. And you said spaces because, people don't want to just hang outside all the time. Definitely in Xenia, probably gets a little bit cold here pretty soon. Today we're getting a nice day, but I think those are running thin. And you're from Canada, so I got to tell you, you can't be outside all the time. People like buildings. And people like old buildings. Mm-hmm. I love old buildings. Like I said, I have two. I don't have one that's 36,000 square feet. I thought I had two big old buildings that had been big enough for me to handle. But, what's the plan for this place? Because I know people in town care about this building. If you grew up in Xenia, you've driven by this 100 times. Like I drove past the old buildings in my town. And buildings like this, they're like part of you if you live in town. So why do you think there's an emotional attachment amongst with an old building and people who walk and drive by, and then maybe even for a newcomer who you might have fell in love with the first time you saw it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think old buildings have a certain sense of charm. There's history there. It's been around longer than we have. And so it's almost like, the way you feel about your grandparents, or, this piece that's just kind of stable and constant, right? I think this building in particular has been through a lot. The tornadoes back in the 70s, and I'm a newcomer, so I'm learning a lot about this, but This building was one of the ones that was affected by the tornadoes. In fact, right across the street was completely wiped out. Wow. There's this beautiful, if you look at old building pictures, there's this beautiful building across the street that's just not there anymore, and got completely wiped out, whereas this one, just half of the roof got taken off. So it's fun learning about the history. I think that's part of the charm of the older buildings. And so when you're asking me about what do we want to do with this place, I think we're looking for that answer right now. I don't think we have a set answer. I think we're looking for, what does Xenia want with this place? How do we honor what has been in this place and where it's going? I know there's a big need for housing. The problem with housing is it's the most expensive renovation process.
Bathrooms and kitchens.
Bathrooms and firewall and all the sprinkler systems. Offices or something really kind of less labor intensive would probably be our first bet, but we're really committed to also keeping the historical component of it. So renovating the outside, redoing the windows, all the brick facade. So there is it's a big commitment construction wise, but I think we're up for the task. We're 3 young guys, excited. We got vision. I mean, I'm maybe more so the visionary. So I'm thinking like restaurant roof on the ceiling and skywalks and bridges and stuff like that. I mean, it's probably pie in the sky a little bit, but you need the big stuff to motivate the
shoot for a real high mark. Maybe you get close. That's what you
shoot
gotta do
for the
sometimes.
stars. Or shoot for the moon. You might end up in the stars.
Yeah. I love big ideas. I mean, someone's got to dream them up. But also, like you said, it's got to be somewhat practical. It's got to be able to get done too. So,
right.
Who's going to do all the work in this place? I mean, I was here last time with you a couple months ago, and your brother was hauling out carpet, and he was all sweaty. I mean, you were just talking, so I don't know. Has he got you in here working too?
Well, yeah, I'm right now. Most of my energy is in Common Thread.
All right.
But I know he's bookmarked my time for the next 3 years to be helping him with the renovations of this place. But no, we get any help we can get. All of our friends are probably sick of us being like, hey, do you have an afternoon? Just we're pulling out rugs in this building, or you want to come help us do some crown molding in this place?
Yeah, I mean, and this is the Allen building. What is the history? What was it built for? Do you know? What was here?
Yeah, I am not the history guy, but I can try and regurgitate. Don't take my word for it,
Yeah.
but like.
Don't do your history projects, kids.
Do not take what I'm saying. But the Allen was an actual guy that lived in Xenia. John Allen.
All right.
Don't quote me on that. But he also has a house that he built and lived in just a few blocks away. And actually, this building wasn't built by him. It wasn't owned by him, but it was built in honor of him.
Oh, okay.
So John Allen,
He probably was a lawyer or something.
He probably was. Yeah, he probably was a lawyer. And you're just following in his footsteps. Yeah. But this was lawyer offices. I think there was a couple dentists that used to be here at one point.
I mean, it's massive for people. We're only in this one room. I don't know how many rooms there are. We had a lot of choices. This one had the nice windows, but it's a big building. I was lost the first time you took me through it. So you guys got a lot of work to do, and obviously you know that it's going to take a while. You said 3 years.
That's probably pretty aggressive. Yeah. But we're motivated, and I think at the very least in a couple years we could see part of the building. I think we're going to do it in sections,
nice.
So part of the building can be occupied, and just how that's going to play out, we're not sure yet.
Come back when part of it's done. We'll do an update video. We've never done an update video, but I'm sure a camera guy would be up for that.
Yeah.
You see it all fixed up.
Once your business takes off in Xenia, you'll have like multiple people working with you. So we'll need a little office space. Yeah.
Where do you think because I'm kind of like vision minded as well. I'm always thinking of ideas. I have a law firm. I got other things I want to do. Not everybody's like that. I think it took me a while to figure that out. Not everybody's wanting to think of a bunch of ideas. I think sometimes if you're talking about a lot of ideas, that most is annoying to some people. Like, well, what's wrong with this guy? Aren't you just happy with doing your work? And I'm usually not. I'm happy in general with my life, but I always wanted to kind of do something more. I mean, why are we doing a video series? I don't know. Just because I wanted to, I guess. But why do you think some people are that way? Or why do you think you're that way? I mean, you've had a business. You're in the cabin. You're here buying buildings, giant buildings in a town. You're not even from the state or this country. Why do you think that comes from? And why are you this way? Why are we crazy?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I'd have to say, I think I would categorize it in two different ways of visioning. I think there's the visioning where you don't think it's possible. So you can dream, but you actually have zero plans on going forward, or there's no next step. And it's a dream that leads to an end. And so I think that type of thinking can often color other people's view, right? You're talking about people think you're crazy. Well, I think it's crazy until it works. And there's also, but the precursor to that is like dreaming, and is it possible? Am I actually gonna take steps on this? Or like, is this the beginning of something? Or is it just, wouldn't it be fun if, but I have zero plans of moving forward. So I think there's two categories. And so like the category where there's actually move forward momentum, I think why that's crazy is possibility. I think dreamers have to have overinflated sense of possibility. And I think you see it a lot in kids, right? Mm-hmm. Kids are great dreamers because everything's possible. And I think we lose that somewhere along the way. We get jaded by the world or by things not working out, and then you lose it. But it's such a valuable gift, and I think it's so important for those of us who've been able to hang on to it to cultivate that and to keep moving forward with that, because we need dreams. We need big ideas, thinking outside of the box, especially those that are willing to take the steps that are scary to make those happen, even against all the, the naysayers and those that think you're crazy.
Yeah, and you said you're crazy till it works, but like sometimes it doesn't work, and I can tell you that. I mean, I don't talk about this on this podcast much, but this is not my first law firm. I had a different law firm, and that one didn't work out. So like, and I got back on the horse again, and I think a lot of times I think more people have dreams than maybe would say they do, but I think a lot of people give up on themselves too early, and I think some people do have tough failures like I have had and quit, because then they say, heck with it, and it does take. I think it's sad because it could be the next try is the one that could have really worked 100%. For a lot of people, and if you guys fix this whole building up and it's the coolest building in Greene County, it's not just going to affect your life, it'll affect a lot of other people positively. So it's really sad when people give up too early, Mm-hmm. So I never want to give up really on anything, but but not everybody's cut out for it either. I mean, it's just not for everyone. Some people want to, safety, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't like boredom, and there's nothing wrong with I think people got to follow what they think's right for them. But I'm an idea person, I want to own all kinds of different little weird businesses. Not even really necessarily to make money, just because I used to want to own a putt-putt. It's the goofiest thing, different from a law firm, but I don't know. It just sounds like it'd be fun. Get putters on balls, and they bring them back. And
my brother was
indoor putt-putt here.
My brother was trying to do an indoor putt-putt here. He told me about that 2 days ago.
I might invest in that. You might have new investor. My wife will be laughing. She says this, but
Can I ask you why didn't the first failure break you?
I think a couple reasons. I'm just a positive person, and I just I figure I'll figure it out. And it wasn't the first time I'd failed in my life, or the first time something bad had happened to me. That's another reason. And I didn't have a choice. I mean, I got kids. At the time I had a son who was about 4. No, he was about 10, and my daughter was 1. She was sick. My wife lost her job, so it's like. I don't know how deep you get. I mean, I know you're kind of a deep thinker. When you're in the woods, did you read like Art of War or any of that stuff? Like Death's Ground, like when your back's against the wall, usually that's when you do better, or you cave altogether, Mm-hmm. So, I've just been in situations in the past where it was tough and I'd got through it before, or I screwed something up, but I didn't, but I still was alive, that's kind of if I don't die, then, if I do, that sucks. Eventually I will, but it'll be over then. But if I'm not dead and I'm able to walk and think, I just kind of assume I'll figure something out. It might not be what I planned, but I'll figure something out. And I'm pretty happy with what I got, regardless of what that is. I hate losing, but not because I need the prestige or money that winning would come in the case or whatever in business. Mm-hmm. I like winning just because I want to win and see that I can do something and succeed. Yeah. But even when I was a kid and kind of broke, I was still a happy kid. So I know that if all goes bust and I have to close up shop, I won't be like a depressed person. And I think that's just luck. I think some people's brains are wired how they are. I've always just kind of been like the opposite of depressed. I just wake up in a good mood, and always my wife sometimes, she has to warm up a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I think people are wired differently, and I think the first one just didn't work out, and there's a lot of, and I've read a lot of history and stuff, and I know that a lot of the people who've done the greatest things ever, it wasn't like their first rodeo that worked. It's like sometimes it's the 15th time they tried something that worked. So I think kids, and you're talking about social media and phones, I think a lot of the problem is people lose that. If some kid wants to be a lawyer and he's following my podcast, if I wouldn't have said that, he would think, Josh started a law firm and it did great the first time. That's actually not true. And I did a bunch of shitty jobs before I was a lawyer, and I screwed up a bunch of times, So I think we don't highlight that. Even in history, it's usually what people did good or something heinous. It's not like the middle ground. And really, that's really the magic sometimes not like the most heinous thing people did in history or the greatest victories. It's kind of like, Ben Franklin was putzing around in his office and he figured out how everybody was doing, those stories don't get highlighted much. Right. And I think that's kind of sad. So I think, people people can do more than they think. You know, I used to definitely set my sights too low. You know, I didn't shoot for the star or the moon or whatever when I was a kid. I was kind of like, you know, day by day. But I think over time you get more confidence, you know.
And the breakdowns and I think the failures along the way, you know, we can even the word failure, it's like, oh, it didn't work out, but that's actually a crucial part of what is working or where you're going, right? It's a building block to the next step. So I just hear in your story, it's like, hey, like that's it, like what are you gonna let that define your next step? It's like, oh, it's too big, I shouldn't have gone out for it, or all right, what did I learn? What am I gonna do different next time? And I almost think, and you know, take it for what it's worth, but I almost think like the more we fail, the more we're ready to fail bigger next time.
Yeah, you get stronger, I think.
Yeah.
But it depends what lens and how you like, you know, take the information and like regurgitate it in your brain. You can take things negatively and it can get people down. I've seen it, you know. Yeah. But I know other people who failed 10 times and every time they're a little bit bigger than before. Just like lifting weights or something.
Yeah.
Like you know, you get stronger if you keep going back, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, people give up. A lot of people give up, you know. And I think, you know, the stuff online people are overpopulated with people's successes because not a lot of people, and there are people that put more real stuff online, but you're not usually just posting a whole reel of Instagram every day, all the things you've jacked up in your life. You probably could.
Sure,
I could, you know, like people don't do that. And I think, you know, it does kind of influence people who, you know, think that everyone's life is better than it is. I mean, I think a lot of people can see through it too, but you know, it's interesting. It's an interesting thing, and what the people's brains. And we're figuring. I'm an injury lawyer, so we read a lot about the science of the brain, and there's a lot of new scans coming out. So we're figuring out way more about the actual structure of the brain than we did before. So I would say probably in our lifetime, if we live a long life, they'll probably be able to scan your brain and tell you why you got vision more than someone else, and why you said your brother likes juggling a lot of things at once more than you like doing one thing at a time. I mean, some of it I think struck in there. You know, like I mean, when you're born, people are different. You know, like in beautiful ways. I mean, bad ways, good ways, you know. But it's interesting. You know, I'm just trying to learn every day. You know, I'm 42. I mean, 10 years ago, I wouldn't think I'd be running a law firm. Definitely not one doing a podcast law firm, whatever we're doing here. But you know, and when I'm 52, 10 years from now, who knows? I mean, hopefully this place will all spick and span by then. You know.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll have your offices.
Yeah, the offices. Yeah, we'll have a whole crew and a putt-putt.
And a putt-putt. That might be sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I like a putt-putt. We'll definitely do a video for that.
Yeah.
Well, man, if you don't have anything else to add, you know, you said before we go, you said you're not quite 100% sure what you want to do with the building. You want to know what Xenia wants. People out in Xenia, how do they get a hold of you to give you ideas? You know, be careful. You might get a lot of them, but I mean, you know, you might get a good one too. So how would they get a hold of you?
So we're usually always at Common Thread. Common Thread right now.
Right across the street.
Yeah, it's our baby. We're babysitting it right now, and we're trying to grow it. So come on into Common Thread. You can send us an email, info at ctxenia.com if you want to email. But yeah, there's someone there. You can get a hold of me anytime just by walking in there. I'm usually there 24/7.
All right. And hopefully someone's maybe got an even better idea in the putt-putt, but I don't know. It'll be hard to beat, I think.
Yeah. We've had someone think a escape room even. Right. So we're in talks with people.
You got room for probably both in this place. 36,000 feet. Oh yeah. It's a lot.
It'd be great. So I'm looking forward to it.
We got plenty of pillows too. We got to figure out what to do with these.
Yeah, Brooke's gonna take a jump in a second, but.
All right, Graeme, I appreciate it. It's been fun. Can't wait to see what you guys figure out with this thing, and good luck with the journey. I'm sure it'll be some ups and failures and downs, but keep pushing. You'll figure it out.
That's part of it.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
That was awesome. A lot of fun. Good luck with this beast.
Thank you. You guys want to go on the roof? It's always a fun little.
Yeah. We got a couple minutes. Yeah, we got till 2:30.
Did I take you guys up there last time?